did you keep that joyful spirit in what you were doing?
I mean, for me, it's about perspective. Look, what I'm doing now, what Moms for Liberty is doing all across the country, yeah, it's hard work, and sometimes you get dejected. You feel like people aren't really listening to you, but you see a better way. But one thing I've always realized is the sun comes up tomorrow. My kids are still gonna love me tomorrow. As a dad, I'm gonna do everything for them tomorrow. I'm gonna sleep. I'm gonna get up. I gotta tie my shoes. I gotta brush my hair, brush my teeth. These things come and go.
Hey, Joyful Warriors, we have such a special guest right now, and I'm so excited to interview Byron Donalds. Byron is the husband of a very good friend of Moms for Liberty, Erica Donalds, who is on our advisory board, a fellow mom who ran for school board, won, and served in Collier County, and is now working to transform public education with classical charter schools. So big shout out to your wife. I know I'm here to interview you, but I'm a big Erica Donalds fan.
Well, no, that's fine. I'm a fan too. Or I better be, or else I'm be in trouble.
So you have 3 boys, is that right?
Three
and what
boys.
are their ages now?
19, 15, and 11.
All right, so I've got 17, 15, 13, and 11. I've got 1 extra stuck in, 1 girl, 3 boys.
1 girl, 3 boys.
1 girl, 3 boys.
May the Lord bless you and keep you.
That is
May the
right.
Lord help you.
Teenage boys are something.
I was talking about the teenage girl.
Oh, no, the girl's easy.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
good with the girl.
All right,
I'm good with the
okay.
girl. So you served in the Florida House. Now you serve in the House of Representatives. I watched you do an interview that was beautiful where someone said to you, Byron, are you concerned about retribution for taking a stand as speaker? And you said, and let me see if I get this quote right. You said, man, I'm 6'2", 275. I'm not worried about retribution. Did I get that
You got
approximately
it
right?
You got it right.
You adding levity in a moment where there could be a lot of people that would say there would be retribution, right? To take a stand against what we'd be seen as establishment or people standing in line for office, right? To disrupt that process. Our moms are disruptors too sometimes in their own local community. So can you give them some advice about, kind of keeping your wits about you, keeping a sense of humor, right? And enjoying what you're doing, but working in the spirit as a joyful warrior, because really in that moment, that could have been, and a lot of people wanted to turn it against you, right? They wanted to create more division within the Republican Party. You were very joyful in the work that you did.
Right.
How did you keep that joyful spirit in what you were doing?
I mean, for me, it's about perspective. Look, what I'm doing now, what Moms for Liberty is doing all across the country, yeah, it's hard work, and sometimes you get dejected. You feel like people aren't really listening to you, but you see a better way. But one thing I've always realized is the sun comes up tomorrow.
Yeah.
My kids are still gonna love me tomorrow. As a dad, I'm gonna do everything for them tomorrow. I'm gonna sleep. I'm gonna get up. I gotta tie my shoes. I gotta brush my hair, brush my teeth. These things come and go.
Yeah.
And I think that the key thing to understand for me has always been, even though we might have disagreements, we all really do want the same thing. I think there's some people who want something completely different, and that's another argument for another day. But most Americans, most people want the same thing. And so to try to keep the value of those relationships, to try to really just make sure you keep the perspective of life. Because as we're arguing about who's going to be Speaker of the House, most Americans are just trying to figure out, are the schools open? Yup, my kid's got to go to school. Did he do his math homework? Is he being taught right? That's a big one.
Is he even learning math in
Is
school,
he learning
right?
it?
Yeah.
How am I going to feed my family? What's going on in my company? Me and my buddies still going bowling later?
Right.
Is my golf game going to be hampered? Is there a storm coming? There's so much more going on in life than just politics. And I think that people have got it twisted in our area that this is the only thing. It's a part of our life,
right?
But it's not the only thing in life. And I always try to keep that in the forefront of my mind, even though we tackle a lot of tough issues and we really have to fight hard on key issues. And there's some things in the country that we have to reverse course on. But when my time is done, I'm a human being. I'm an American.
You're going to go back to being a dad.
I go back to being me.
Yeah. And you're always going to be called dad no matter if you're the governor of the state of Florida, if you're the president of the United States. who knows what the future holds for you, Byron. So let's just talk about Florida for a
Sure.
second, if we could. You're a resident of Florida. That's where you raise your family. I live in Florida. During a time of COVID, when there were so many questions about the future of our country and freedom, we did see Governor DeSantis take a stand and really rooted in the founding principles of our country. And you know, there are always risks in every decision you make as a leader, right? But to lead with the founding principles, I think, was really what Floridians were inspired by, right? He trusted us to raise our family. What do you see around the country now as moms and dads are watching Governor DeSantis, and we see some other governors standing up now too, right? What does the future look like for America and parental rights, and how important has Florida been, I think, in moving the country forward? I'm curious.
Well, I think the future is bright for that. I'd always remind people that, you know, before governments, before cities, there were families. And there were families before it, there's going to be families after it. My kids aren't raised by the state, they're raised by me. My kids don't belong to the local county commission. They belong to me. I'm the one that makes their medical decisions. They don't make them. Those are my choices. And so the parent has to be first in line. Not an institution, not an expert, not a bureaucrat. That mom and that dad, they are first in line on every single decision. So I think parental rights are only going to grow. What we've seen from Ron DeSantis, which was tremendous leadership in a time of, you know, of chaos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody was nervous. Everybody was afraid. Nobody knew what was coming next. And what you see now is other leaders say, you know what? I can do that. We can do this and get back on track. I think it's a powerful thing. But I always want to make sure I give credit because, you know, Ron has done an amazing job as our governor. But the parental choice, the parental first movement, I started with Jeb Bush almost 30 years ago. And I know some people be like, oh man, why are you bringing up Jeb Bush? Jeb Bush is the one who started the charter school movement in Florida. You know, New York City was the incubator. Florida was the first state to say, we're doing this as a function of how we educate children. That was the first step. So no matter where we go in the battle for parental rights, them being first in line, we always have to take count of how long of a battle this has been, all of the different people who have been a part of it, the times where it wasn't clear how this was going to work and you needed leaders to just step forward, take the risk, and see it through. And I think now the wind is at our back with respect to moving parental rights through the country. And we're going to see more changes and more innovation. It's going to be a beautiful thing.
I think so too, and I think it's the big tent. I really think it's the one thing that we're going to be able to pull people together past political lines, past racial lines, religious divide, to say we're all parents. You have the fundamental right to raise your kid. I do too, and we're going to have respect for each other in that.